It started as something simple, a favor for my neighbor, a quick fix under the hood of her car, a mundane act of kindness, a fleeting interaction in the scorching afternoon sun. I didn't think much of it then, not beyond the grease on my hands and the satisfaction of a job done, but the image lingered, a subtle imprint on my mind. The way the fabric clung, the unexpected curve of her smile, the spark in her eyes that defied the casual exchange. Days later, when I heard a soft, hesitant knock on my door, my world tilted. There she was, framed by the doorway, wearing only that same piece of clothing from that afternoon, the one I couldn't stop picturing. Her eyes said more than words ever could, and in that charged silence, I realized some visits aren't about thank yous. They're about unfinished sparks, about a heat that had been simmering, waiting for the perfect moment to ignite. If you've ever found yourself caught off guard by an unexpected connection, where a simple gesture ignites a fire you never saw coming, then you're in the right place. Hit that subscribe button right now and join me as we delve into a story where a mundane favor unravels into a complex web of desire, vulnerability, and the unexpected journey of self-discovery. You won't want to miss a single chapter. My name is Cale, and my life in the quiet, tree-lined suburbs of Austin, Texas, was, by most accounts, perfectly ordinary. I'm a structural engineer in my early 30s, a man who finds comfort in blueprints, calculations, and the predictable strength of well-designed foundations. My days were spent ensuring buildings stood tall and safe. My evenings usually involved a good book, a workout at the local gym, or catching a game with my best friend, Finn. I valued stability, clear boundaries, and the comfortable rhythm of my routines. Finn, a high school history teacher with an infectious laugh and an uncanny ability to spot trouble, or fun, a mile away, often teased me about my engineer's precision in life. "Kyle, sometimes you just gotta wing it," he'd declare, usually after I'd meticulously planned our weekend hiking trip down to the minute. My sister, Ilara, a fiercely independent architect who lived a few states away, was a little more direct. She'd just shake her head and tell me to loosen up whenever I'd recount a particularly challenging structural problem I'd solved. Sienna was my neighbor. She lived 2 houses down, a vibrant, artistic soul who had moved into the neighborhood about 6 months ago. We'd exchanged pleasantries over mailboxes, waved across lawns, and once she'd even brought over a plate of homemade cookies when I was moving in a new sofa. She was a freelance artist, specializing in large-scale murals, and her presence in our quiet street was like a splash of vibrant color in a monochrome drawing. We were friendly, but our interactions were always brief, polite, and strictly neighborly, or so I thought. That particular Tuesday afternoon was a sweltering Texas summer day, the kind where the air shimmered above the asphalt and even the shade offered little reprieve. I was in my garage tinkering with an old motorcycle engine, enjoying the solitude and the mechanical challenge. Suddenly I heard a frustrated groan from down the street, followed by the distinct sound of a car failing to start. I wiped my greasy hands on a rag and peered out. It was Sienna's vintage convertible, a beautiful cherry-red classic that she adored. She was leaning over the open hood, her dark wavy hair falling across her face, a look of utter exasperation on her features. She was wearing a simple light grey tank top and a pair of worn denim shorts, practical attire for the heat. But the way the fabric of the tank top clung to her as she bent, revealing the subtle curve of her back and shoulders, caught my eye for a fleeting moment. "Everything all right over there, Sienna?" I called out, my voice carrying easily in the still air. She straightened up, pushing a stray strand of hair from her face, a smudge of grease already on her cheek. "Oh, Kyle! Hey! No, not really. She just died. Won't even crank. And I have a client meeting downtown in an hour." Her voice was laced with genuine panic. I walked over, my engineer's brain already assessing the situation. "Mind if I take a look?" I'm pretty decent with engines, especially older models. Her face lit up with relief. "Are you serious? That would be amazing, Cale. I owe you big time." I spent the next 45 minutes under the hood of her car, the sun beating down on my back, sweat trickling down my temples. Sienna stood beside me, handing me tools, asking questions, her presence surprisingly comforting. She smelled faintly of paint and something sweet, like vanilla. As I worked, our hands occasionally brushed, small accidental touches that sent a subtle jolt through me. I tried to ignore it, focusing on the intricate mechanics of the engine, but a part of my mind registered the warmth of her skin, the unexpected softness of her fingers. The tank top she was wearing, a simple, unassuming garment, seemed to take on a new significance in the close proximity. It was just a piece of clothing, practical for the heat, but the way it moved with her, the way it subtly outlined her form, made it impossible to ignore. I found myself stealing glances, quickly averting my eyes when she looked my way, a faint blush creeping up my neck. Finally, with a few adjustments and a bit of tinkering, the engine sputtered to life, then roared with a satisfying rumble. Sienna gasped, her eyes wide with delight. "Cale, you're a miracle worker. Thank you, thank you, thank you." She threw her arms around me in a spontaneous hug, her body pressing against mine for a brief, electrifying moment. I could feel the warmth of her skin through my t-shirt, the soft curve of her breast against my chest. The scent of paint and vanilla enveloped me. "Just glad I could help," I mumbled, my voice a little breathless, my heart doing a strange little flutter. I pulled away, feeling a sudden awkwardness, my hands still greasy. She pulled back, her smile radiant. "Seriously, I owe you. What can I do? Dinner? Drinks?" No, it's fine," I quickly interjected, trying to regain my composure. "Just glad you're back on the road. Good luck with your meeting." "I'll figure out a way to repay you," she insisted, her eyes sparkling with a determined glint. "You'll see." She hopped into her car, gave me a final grateful wave and sped off, leaving me standing in the shimmering heat, the lingering scent of vanilla and paint in the air. I walked back to my garage, my mind replaying the brief hug, the accidental touches, the way that simple grey tank top had looked on her. It was just a favor, I told myself, just a neighborly act. But the image of her, framed by the open hood of her car, the sun glinting off her hair, the subtle curve of her form beneath that tank top, refused to leave my mind. If you're feeling the unexpected spark between Cale and Sienna, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us tell these complex human stories. The next few days were a blur of work, gym, and trying to push the image of Sienna out of my head. It was ridiculous, I told myself. She was my neighbor, a friend. There was nothing more to it. But every time I walked past her house, I found myself glancing at her driveway, hoping to catch a glimpse of her and simultaneously dreading it. The memory of her spontaneous hug, the warmth of her body, the scent of vanilla and paint, it all played on a loop in my mind, a subtle, persistent hum beneath the surface of my structured life. Finn, my best friend, noticed my distraction during our usual Friday night beer run. "You're quiet tonight, Cale," he observed, raising an eyebrow. "Everything all right? Big project at work?" "Yeah, just a lot on my mind," I mumbled, trying to sound nonchalant. I couldn't bring myself to tell him about Sienna, about the unexpected jolt of attraction that had blindsided me. It felt too personal, too vulnerable, too unlike the Cale he knew. "Uh-huh," Finn said, a knowing smirk playing on his lips. "Or is it a certain artistic neighbor who drives a classic convertible?" My head snapped up. "What? How did you—" Finn chuckled. "Dude, I saw you under her hood the other day, and I've seen the way you've been casually glancing down the street. You're not exactly subtle when you're intrigued, my friend." He clapped me on the shoulder. "She's a looker, Cale, and she seems pretty cool. What's the holdup?" "She's my neighbor, Finn," I protested, feeling a blush creep up my neck. "And a friend, it's complicated." "Complicated is where the best stories begin," he countered, winking. "Just sayin'." His words, though teasing, resonated with a strange truth. My life was anything but complicated, and maybe, just maybe, a little complication was exactly what I needed. If you're intrigued by Finn's observations and Cale's internal struggle, please consider hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your support helps us create more compelling stories. The weekend passed in a haze of anticipation. I found myself constantly checking my phone, half expecting a text from Sienna, half dreading it. I even cleaned my apartment more thoroughly than usual, a subconscious preparation for a visit I told myself wouldn't happen. Then, on Monday afternoon, just as the sun began its slow descent, casting long shadows across my living room, there was a soft knock on my door. My heart leaped into my throat. I knew instinctively who it was. I walked to the door, my palms suddenly sweaty, a nervous flutter in my stomach. I took a deep breath, trying to compose myself, to put on my usual calm, collected engineer persona. I opened the door, and there she was, Sienna. The late afternoon light, golden and warm, framed her in the doorway. Her dark, wavy hair was loose around her shoulders, catching the light like a halo. Her bright, intelligent eyes, usually sparkling with humor, held a profound intensity, a silent promise of revelation. and she was wearing it. Only that. The same light grey tank top from that sweltering Tuesday afternoon, the one I couldn't stop picturing. It clung to her, subtly outlining her form, a silent, powerful statement. Her denim shorts were gone, replaced by nothing, just the tank top and the undeniable, breathtaking curve of her legs, her bare feet on my welcome mat. My breath caught in my throat. My carefully constructed world of predictable routines and platonic friendships shattered into a million pieces. The air grew thick with unspoken possibilities, a dangerous current pulling me deeper into her world. Her eyes met mine, and in their depths I saw it, a flicker of something I couldn't quite name but recognized instantly. Desire, curiosity, an invitation, a question. "Kyle," she began, her voice a soft, husky whisper. "I told you I'd find a way to repay you." My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat of anticipation and nerves. I knew with a chilling certainty that the path ahead was no longer just uncertain, but fraught with an intoxicating possibility that would alter the landscape of my life, forever. The memory of her bright eyes, her knowing smile, the way she made me feel without saying a word. It was a powerful, irresistible force, drawing me deeper into a mystery I was desperate to unravel. The city outside, with its familiar rhythms and predictable routines, seemed to fade into insignificance. All that mattered was Sienna, her captivating presence, the undeniable pull she exerted over me. And I knew, with a chilling certainty, that the path ahead was no longer just uncertain, but fraught with an intoxicating, dangerous possibility that would alter the landscape of my life, forever. Her words hung in the air, thick with unspoken meaning, reverberating through the quiet of my living room. The late afternoon sun, once a gentle glow, now seemed to intensify, casting long, dramatic shadows that danced around Sienna's form in the doorway. My mind, usually so analytical and precise, was a blank slate overwhelmed by her presence, by the sheer audacity of her gesture. The simple grey tank top, once just a piece of practical clothing, now felt like a provocative statement, a silent challenge to every boundary I had ever meticulously constructed. "Sienna," I managed, my voice a rough whisper, barely audible even to myself. My gaze swept over her, taking in the bare skin of her legs, the subtle curve of her hips, the way the fabric of the tank top clung to her, hinting at the soft swell of her breasts. It was an image that had haunted my thoughts for days, and now it was undeniably, breathtakingly real. She took a step forward, her bare feet silent on my wooden floor, and the scent of vanilla and paint now mingled with something subtly floral, enveloped me. Her eyes, those bright, intelligent eyes, held mine, a silent invitation, a dangerous question. There was no shyness, no embarrassment, only a confident, almost mischievous glint that dared me to look away, to deny the undeniable current that now crackled between us. "I don't think a simple dinner or drinks would quite cover it, Kale," she continued, her voice still low, a playful smirk tugging at the corner of her lips. "You saved my meeting, you saved my car, you saved my sanity." She paused, her gaze dropping to my lips for a fleeting moment before returning to my eyes. "And I think you deserve something a little more personal." My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat of anticipation and nerves. Every fiber of my being screamed for caution, for the comfortable predictability of my old life. This was my neighbor. This was uncharted territory, a seismic shift in the carefully laid foundations of my existence. But another part, a deeper, more primal part, yearned for the unknown, for the intoxicating thrill of the moment, for the dangerous allure of her unspoken promise. I didn't answer immediately, I couldn't. My mind was a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. The comfort of our neighborly friendship, the fear of ruining it, the undeniable electrifying pull she exerted over me. The heat in the room was no longer just the Texas summer. It was the heat of a burgeoning desire, a silent fire that had been ignited the moment she appeared at my door. She didn't wait for an answer. Her hand, hesitant at first, reached out and gently touched my arm. Her fingers, warm and soft, traced a slow path up to my shoulder, sending a jolt of raw, primal energy through me. Her eyes never left mine, a silent invitation, a dangerous challenge. "I've been thinking about you, Kyle," she confessed, her voice barely audible, her gaze unwavering. More than I should have, more than I ever expected. The confession, so vulnerable, so honest, shattered any remaining resistance. The unspoken tension that had been building between us all night finally erupted, a silent explosion of desire and curiosity. I leaned in, my hand reaching out to cup her cheek. Her skin was soft, warm. Her eyes fluttered closed for a moment, then opened again, filled with a complex mix of desire, mystery, and a hint of something wild. "Me too, Sienna," I whispered, my voice hoarse with emotion, more than I ever thought possible. And then our lips met. It was a kiss that was both tentative and fierce, a culmination of unspoken desires and suppressed emotions. It was soft at first, exploring, then deepened, fueled by the raw, undeniable attraction that had simmered beneath the surface of our casual acquaintance for far longer than either of us had realized. The world outside my apartment, with its familiar rhythms and predictable routines, seemed to fade into insignificance. All that mattered was Sienna, her captivating presence, the undeniable pull she exerted over me. If you're as thrilled and surprised by this turn of events as Kale and Sienna are, please consider hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your support helps us create more compelling stories. The night unfolded in a blur of shared confessions, whispered secrets, and an intoxicating exploration of a new, uncharted territory. We talked for hours, not just about the kiss, but about everything we had suppressed, everything we had wondered about each other. The comfortable familiarity of our neighborly interactions had transformed into something entirely new, something exhilarating and terrifyingly vulnerable. The next morning, the sun streamed through my living room window, casting a warm glow on the rumpled blanket on the sofa. Sienna was still asleep, her head resting on my shoulder, her dark hair fanned out around her. I watched her, a profound sense of wonder and a subtle, persistent unease churning in my stomach. This was uncharted territory. Our neighborly relationship, once a solid, predictable foundation, had been irrevocably altered. What did this mean for us? For our comfortable routines? For the easy rhythm of our lives? I found myself making excuses to Finn, fabricating delays, taking longer routes to work, anything to free up time to be with Sienna, or to simply replay the events of that night in my mind. My friends, especially Finn, noticed my change. "Dude, you're glowing," Finn observed one afternoon, a knowing grin on his face. Must be that wing it philosophy finally kicking in. "Did you finally loosen up?" I just smiled, a genuine, unforced smile that felt foreign on my face. "Something like that," I admitted, a thrill running through me. Ilara, my sister, was also perceptive. "You sound different, Kale," she said during our next video call. "Happier, more alive. Did you finally loosen up?" "Maybe," I replied, a warmth spreading through me. Maybe I did. The city, once a backdrop to my mundane existence, now felt vibrant, alive with possibility. Every street, every corner, seemed to hold a new secret, a new adventure. My senses were heightened, acutely aware of the beauty and complexity of the world around me. Sienna had awakened something in me, a dormant part of my soul that yearned for connection, for passion, for a life beyond the predictable. One evening, after a particularly intense conversation with Sienna about our future, she invited me to her apartment again. "I have something I want to show you, Kyle," she said, her voice a low, seductive whisper. "Something I think you'll appreciate. Something that speaks to the depths of who you are." My heart pounded with anticipation. I knew this was a turning point, a moment that would define the trajectory of our connection. I walked the short distance to her apartment building in downtown Austin, under the cover of twilight, the city skyline glittering like scattered jewels in the distance. The air was warm, fragrant with the promise of a Texas night. When she opened the door, she was wearing a flowing dark silk robe that seemed to cling to her curves, her dark hair loose around her shoulders. Her bright blue eyes, illuminated by the soft interior lighting, held a profound intensity, a silent promise of revelation. "Come in, Kale," she whispered, her voice a soft invitation that resonated deep within me. I stepped inside, my senses overwhelmed by her presence, by the subtle scent of her perfume, by the palpable energy that emanated from her. Her apartment was a familiar space, yet tonight it felt charged with a new, intoxicating energy. She led me through the living space, past shelves overflowing with books and unique art pieces, to a hidden door I hadn't noticed before, disguised as part of a built-in bookshelf. She opened it, revealing a dimly lit, cavernous room. As I stepped inside, my breath caught in my throat. The room was a private studio, filled with canvases, easels, and various artistic tools. But it wasn't just the art itself that captivated me, it was the subject. Every piece, every painting, every sketch seemed to depict a man with short, dark hair, with thoughtful brown eyes, with a quiet intensity and a reserved demeanor. A man who looked exactly like me. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat of shock and disbelief. There were portraits of my profile, sketches of my hands, paintings of my expressions. It was an entire gallery dedicated to me, to my likeness, to the essence of who I was. I turned to Sienna, my eyes wide with a mixture of awe and profound unease. "Sienna, what is this?" I whispered, my voice barely audible. She smiled, a slow, knowing curve that sent a shiver down my spine. Her bright blue eyes, filled with a triumphant glint, held mine. "This, Kyle," she said, her voice a soft, seductive purr, "is you, as I see you, as I've always seen you. I told you I knew exactly what turned you on, and what turns me on, Kyle, is the beauty of a soul laid bare, the structure beneath the surface, the hidden depths." She stepped closer, her hand gently reaching out to touch my cheek, her touch sending a jolt of raw, primal energy through me. "I told you I was looking for someone who isn't afraid to explore the depths, and I found him. I found you." The revelation was overwhelming, intoxicating, and utterly terrifying. She hadn't just seen me. She had studied me, captured my essence in her art. Long before I even knew she existed, the mystery of Sienna, the dangerous allure, the profound connection, it all converged in that moment, pulling me deeper into a world I never knew existed, a world where I was both the subject and the object of an intense, unsettling fascination. The city outside, with its glittering lights and endless possibilities, seemed to fade into insignificance. All that mattered was Sienna, her art, and the terrifying, exhilarating realization that she knew me, truly knew me, in a way no one ever had. And I knew with a chilling certainty that the path ahead was no longer just uncertain, but fraught with an intoxicating, dangerous possibility that would alter the landscape of my life forever. My mind reeled, struggling to process the scene before me. An entire studio, a secret gallery dedicated to me. The paintings, the sketches, the canvases, each piece a meticulous capture of my features, my expressions, even the subtle nuances of my posture. It was unsettling, profoundly so, yet undeniably captivating. Sienna's touch on my cheek, her words, her unwavering gaze, held me in a strange thrall. It was as if she had peeled back my skin, looked into my very core, and then rendered it in paint and charcoal. You've been watching me," I whispered, the question laced with a mixture of awe and a creeping unease. The realization that she had observed me, studied me without my knowledge, was a chilling thought. She smiled, a slow, deliberate curve that held no apology, only a quiet confidence. "Not watching, Kyle. Observing. Understanding. From the moment I saw you, I felt a connection, a resonance. You have a quiet strength, a hidden complexity that most people overlook. I simply chose to explore it." Her thumb traced the line of my jaw, a gesture that was both tender and possessive. "And you, Kyle, are a magnificent subject." The compliment, the intensity of her gaze, the sheer audacity of her artistic obsession, it was an intoxicating cocktail. A part of me, the logical, structured part, screamed for caution, for distance. This was abnormal, a violation of privacy. But another part, a deeper, more vulnerable part, was utterly seduced. To be seen so completely, so profoundly by someone so captivating was a powerful, almost addictive sensation. It was the complication Finn had spoken of, a vibrant, dangerous hue that was pulling me into a world I never knew existed. "But how?" I asked, gesturing vaguely at the art. "How did you capture all this?" "Artists observe, Kyle," she explained, her voice soft, almost hypnotic. "So we see the world differently. We notice the subtle shifts, the unspoken emotions, and once I saw you, once I felt that connection, you became my muse. I simply allowed my art to follow where my intuition led." She stepped back, her hand dropping from my face, but her eyes remained locked with mine. "And now you're here, in my sanctuary, seeing what I've created. What do you think?" The question hung in the air, heavy with expectation. I looked around the studio again at the myriad representations of myself. It was overwhelming, a mirror reflecting back a version of me I hadn't fully recognized. It was flattering, terrifying, and profoundly intimate. It's incredible, Sienna, I finally managed, the words feeling inadequate, and a little overwhelming. She chuckled, a low melodic sound. Good. Art should be overwhelming. It should challenge you, make you feel, and this, Kale, is just the beginning. She took my hand, her fingers intertwining with mine, and led me deeper into the studio, showing me individual pieces, explaining her process, her inspiration. I spent hours in her studio that night, lost in conversation, lost in the strange, intoxicating world she had created around me. She spoke of her own life, her passion for art, her search for profound connections. She was a woman of immense depth, of fierce intelligence and an almost unnerving intuition. By the time I left her apartment, the Austin night sky was beginning to lighten with the first hints of dawn. My head was spinning, my heart a chaotic mix of exhilaration and a subtle, persistent unease. If you're as fascinated and unsettled by Sienna's artistic obsession as Kale is, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us tell these complex human stories. The weeks that followed were a blur of intense clandestine meetings with Sienna. My life as a structural engineer became a mere facade, a necessary cover for my true preoccupation. I found myself constantly inventing excuses to my colleagues, fabricating delays and taking longer lunch breaks, all to carve out more time to be with Sienna. My phone was constantly buzzing with her texts, her calls, each one a summons I couldn't resist. Our relationship deepened rapidly, fueled by the intensity of her gaze and the intoxicating feeling of being so completely seen. We spent hours in her studio, sometimes talking, sometimes in comfortable silence as she worked on a new piece, her eyes constantly studying me, absorbing every detail. She would sketch me, paint me, her hands moving with a focused passion that was mesmerizing to watch. I became her muse, her subject, her obsession, and I, in turn, became obsessed with her, with the way she saw me, with the profound connection we shared. But beneath the intoxicating allure, a subtle disquiet began to grow. Sienna's intensity, initially so captivating, started to feel a little suffocating. Her observations, once so insightful, sometimes felt like intrusions. She seemed to know my thoughts before I spoke them, to anticipate my moods before they fully formed. It was as if she had an almost supernatural understanding of me, which, while flattering, also felt deeply unsettling. My other relationships began to suffer. Finn, my best friend, noticed my increasing withdrawal. "Dude, where have you been?" he asked one afternoon, catching me in the break room at work. "You're always ditching our plans, always on your phone. Is everything okay with Sienna?" He said her name with a knowing smirk, but his eyes held a hint of concern. "Yeah, everything's great," I lied, forcing a casual tone. "Just busy. She's really inspiring, you know? An artist." Finn raised an eyebrow. "Inspiring, huh? You used to complain about being bored. Now you look like you're running on fumes, but with a weird, intense glow. Just be careful, Kale. You're not usually one to jump into things this fast." His words, though well-intentioned, felt like a judgment. I brushed them off, convinced he just didn't understand the depth of what Sienna and I shared. Ilara, my sister, was even more direct during our next video call. "Kyle, you look exhausted," she said, her voice laced with worry. "And you're talking about Sienna constantly. It's like she's consumed you. Are you sure this is healthy?" "She just understands me, Ilara," I defended, a hint of irritation in my voice. "She sees me in a way no one else ever has." "Seeing you is one thing, Kyle," Ilara countered, her expression serious. "But is she seeing you, or is she seeing a version of you that fits her art? There's a difference, and you're losing yourself in it." Her words struck a nerve. Was I losing myself? Or was I finally finding myself through Sienna's eyes? The question lingered, a subtle poison in the intoxicating sweetness of our connection. If you're concerned about Kale's growing isolation and Sienna's increasing influence, please consider hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your support helps us create more compelling stories. The turning point came subtly, almost imperceptibly at first. Sienna began to express a desire for me to spend more time at her apartment, to essentially move in. She framed it as a natural progression, a way for us to deepen our connection, for her to have constant access to her muse. "Think of it, Kale," she purred one evening, her fingers tracing patterns on my arm as we lay on her plush sofa. "No more rushing, no more sneaking around. Just us and our shared passion. You could work from here, I could create. It would be perfect." The idea was tempting, undeniably so. to be fully immersed in her world, to shed the mundane responsibilities of my old life. But a cold knot of apprehension formed in my stomach. It felt less like an invitation and more like a subtle demand, a tightening of the invisible chains that were slowly binding me to her. I hesitated. I don't know, Sienna. My job, my apartment, it's a big step. Her smile, usually so warm, tightened almost imperceptibly. Her bright blue eyes, usually so understanding, held a flicker of something I hadn't seen before, a hint of impatience, a subtle possessiveness. Is it Kyle? Or are you just afraid to fully embrace what we have, to truly let go of the predictable life you claim to despise? Her words were a challenge, a subtle manipulation that played on my insecurities. I felt trapped, caught between the intoxicating allure of her world and the nagging voice of my own dwindling autonomy. One afternoon, while Sienna was engrossed in a new painting in her studio, I wandered into her living room. My phone buzzed with a text from my boss, Mr. Albright, a stern reminder about a missed deadline. I sighed, feeling the weight of my neglected responsibilities. As I put my phone down, my gaze fell upon a small antique wooden box on a side table. It was slightly ajar, and a glint of paper caught my eye. Curiosity, a dangerous companion, got the better of me. I knew I shouldn't, but I felt an irresistible urge to look inside. I carefully opened the box. Inside, nestled on a bed of faded velvet, were several small, intricately folded pieces of paper. Each one was a miniature drawing of a man, and each one, with chilling precision, bore a striking resemblance to me. But these weren't just random figures. They were clearly representations of different stages of a man's life, different expressions, different moods. And beneath each drawing, a small handwritten label. My blood ran cold as I read the labels. The engineer, the observer, the captivated, the bound. And then at the very bottom of the box, beneath the drawings, was a small leather-bound journal. My hands trembled as I picked it up. It wasn't a typical journal. It was filled with meticulous notes, sketches, and observations. And the subject of these observations, the focus of every entry, was me. It wasn't just about my physical appearance or my artistic essence. It was about my habits, my routines, my conversations with Finn, my calls with Ilara. There were detailed analyses of my personality, my vulnerabilities, my desires. It was a comprehensive, almost scientific study of my life, my mind, my very being. There were even notes about my favorite coffee order, the structural engineering podcasts I listened to, all details I'd only shared in casual conversation with a neighbor. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat of pure terror. This wasn't just artistic inspiration, this was surveillance. This was an obsession that transcended art, delving into something far darker, far more controlling. She hadn't just seen me, she had stalked me, meticulously documented my life, long before our friendship began. The shared love for obscure indie films, the knowing look, it was all a carefully constructed facade. The realization hit me with the force of a physical blow. I wasn't her muse. I was her project. I wasn't her connection. I was her subject. The intoxicating feeling of being seen, of being understood, twisted into a horrifying realization of being utterly exposed, utterly controlled. I heard footsteps approaching from the studio. Sienna. My blood ran cold. I quickly, clumsily closed the journal and placed it back in the box, trying to make it look undisturbed. I snapped the box shut, my hands shaking uncontrollably. Sienna entered the living room, a soft smile on her face. Kyle, darling, I was wondering where you went. I just finished a new piece. Come, let me show you. Her bright blue eyes, usually so captivating, now seemed to hold a predatory glint, a chilling awareness. I forced a smile, my heart pounding so hard I thought it would burst through my chest. The warm, eclectic interior of her apartment, once a sanctuary, now felt like a gilded cage. The city outside, with its glittering lights and endless possibilities, seemed impossibly far away. And I knew with a chilling certainty that the path ahead was no longer just uncertain, but fraught with a dangerous, suffocating trap that would alter the landscape of my life, forever. The intoxicating allure had turned into a terrifying reality, and I was caught utterly and completely in the intricate web of Sienna's obsession. My blood ran cold, but I had to act. Sienna's smile, once so inviting, now felt like a predator's grin. Her eyes, those mesmerizing blue pools, held a chilling triumph, confirming she knew exactly what I had discovered. The small, antique wooden box on the side table, now closed, felt like a silent witness to my horrifying realization. A new piece, I repeated, my voice strained, trying to buy myself a moment to think, to plan. Of course I'd love to see it. She took my hand, her grip firm, leading me back towards the studio. Every step felt like walking deeper into a trap. My mind raced, frantically searching for an escape route. The front door was too far, too exposed. The studio, with its single entrance, felt like a dead end. But then my gaze fell upon the large sliding glass doors that led to her small balcony, overlooking the bustling downtown streets. It was several stories up, but it was my only chance. As she turned to gesture towards the new canvas, momentarily distracted, I saw my opportunity. My phone, which I had subtly placed on a bookshelf earlier, was within reach. With a surge of adrenaline, I snatched it, quickly typing a message to Finn. "Sienna's apt, need help, trapped, downtown." I hit send, praying it would go through before she noticed. Just as I pressed send, I heard her voice, sharp and clear from behind me. "Cale, what are you doing?" My blood ran cold. She had seen me. I didn't hesitate. I bolted for the sliding glass doors, throwing them open with a desperate shove. The cool night air hit my face, a momentary reprieve from the suffocating atmosphere inside. I scrambled out onto the small balcony, not looking back, my legs pumping, adrenaline coursing through my veins. "Cale, come back!" Sienna's voice, no longer soft and seductive but sharp and commanding, echoed behind me. I didn't stop. I looked down from the balcony. It was several stories up, too high to jump, but there was a fire escape ladder just a few feet away, extending down the side of the building. It was rusty, old, but it was my only way out. I swung myself over the railing, my hands gripping the cold metal of the fire escape. I heard her footsteps on the balcony, then her frantic shouts. I didn't look up. I descended quickly, my hands burning, my muscles screaming, but the fear of staying was far greater than the pain of escape. Just as my feet touched the ground in the alley below, a car screeched to a halt at the alley entrance. Headlights illuminated the scene, blinding me for a moment. It was Finn's beat-up sedan. He had come. "Cale, get in!" Finn yelled, his voice urgent. I scrambled into the passenger seat, slamming the door shut. Finn floored the accelerator and the car sped away, leaving Sienna standing on her balcony, her silhouette shrinking in the rearview mirror, her screams fading into the city noise. If you're relieved by Cale's daring escape and the timely intervention of his friend, please consider hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your support helps us create more compelling stories. The drive away from Sienna's apartment was a blur of adrenaline and relief. Finn, his face grim, didn't ask questions, just drove, his eyes occasionally flicking to me, concern etched on his features. My body trembled, my heart still pounding. The image of Sienna's furious face burned into my mind. We drove straight to my apartment. Ilara was already there, having flown in from out of state after Finn called her, explaining his fears. She rushed to me, pulling me into a tight hug, her eyes filled with tears. "Cale, oh my God, are you okay?" she cried, her voice trembling. I clung to her, the familiar comfort of her embrace, a powerful antidote to the terror I had just experienced. "I'm okay, Ilara," I whispered, my voice hoarse. "I'm okay now." Over the next few days, with the unwavering support of Finn and Ilara, I began to process the trauma. I recounted everything, the studio, the journal, the chilling realization of Sienna's obsession. They listened patiently, their anger and concern palpable. Finn, ever practical, helped me file a police report, detailing Sienna's stalking and my forced confinement. The police took it seriously, given the evidence of her extensive artistic documentation of my life and the fact that she was a public-facing artist. Ilara, with her keen eye for detail, helped me gather any remaining evidence from my phone and apartment that might corroborate my story. The legal process was slow and emotionally draining, but eventually a restraining order was issued against Sienna. I never saw her again, but the memory of her bright blue eyes, her knowing smile, and the chilling depth of her obsession remained a haunting presence in my mind. I quit my job as a structural engineer. The thought of returning to the same routines, the same city, was unbearable. I needed a complete break, a chance to rebuild my life, to reclaim my sense of self. With Ilara's encouragement, I decided to pursue a long-dormant interest in urban planning, focusing on sustainable community development. I enrolled in a master's program in a different state, determined to get back on track. It was a slow, arduous process, But the familiar logic and precision of design, combined with a new focus on creating healthy, interconnected spaces, offered a comforting sense of purpose amidst the chaos of my recent past. I also started therapy, confronting the underlying reasons for my susceptibility to Sienna's allure. I explored my own insecurities, my longing to be seen, to be understood, which Sienna had so expertly exploited. It was a painful journey of self-discovery, but it was necessary. I learned that true connection is built on trust and mutual respect, not on manipulation and obsession. Finn and Ilara were my anchors throughout this period. Finn, with his unwavering loyalty and practical support, helped me navigate the legal complexities and offered a much-needed sense of normalcy. Ilara, with her empathetic understanding and fierce protection, helped me heal emotionally, reminding me of my own strength and resilience. Their friendship, their love became the true foundation of my recovery. Years passed. The sharp edges of the trauma began to soften, replaced by a quiet understanding. I never forgot Sienna, or the terrifying lesson she taught me. The memory of her mischievous gaze, the way she seemed to see into my soul, still sent a shiver down my spine. But it no longer consumed me. I eventually found a fulfilling job as an urban planner in a vibrant, growing city, a new place, a fresh start. I built a new life, cautiously forming new friendships, learning to trust again, but with a newfound wisdom and a healthy skepticism. I learned that true strength lies not in avoiding the unknown, but in facing it with integrity, and in recognizing the difference between genuine connection and dangerous obsession. One crisp morning, I stood on a newly designed pedestrian bridge, overlooking a bustling city park I had helped bring to life. The sun was rising, painting the sky in hues of orange and gold. The air was cool, carrying the scent of fresh greenery and possibility. I felt a quiet sense of purpose, a renewed appreciation for the interconnected systems I helped create and for the even more solid foundations I had rebuilt within myself. The car fix that day, the neighbor who showed up at my door wearing only that outfit, had indeed altered the landscape of my life forever. It had been a terrifying journey into the depths of obsession, a dangerous dance with a captivating, manipulative force, but I had emerged, scarred but stronger, with a profound understanding of the true price of giving in to such an allure and the invaluable worth of genuine human connection. I had learned to trust my instincts, to value my autonomy, and to truly see myself not through the distorted lens of another's obsession, but through the clear, unwavering gaze of my own reclaimed identity. And that concludes our story. If you were on the edge of your seat with Kyle's terrifying encounter and his journey to reclaim his life, please give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more compelling and realistic stories like this one. Your support means the world and helps us create more content you'll love. Thank you for watching.